I know almost everything about you. I know where you are. I know what you do. I know who you talk to and what about. I know your thoughts and your hopes, and I can even read into your dreams and your fears. You could say that I know far too much. Now, some of you may have already guessed who I am. But if not, I'll give you some more clues. Everywhere you go, I follow you. At work, college, in bars, on the bus. Even when you're with your closest friends and your loved ones, I'm always there, distracting you, taking your attention. Our thing got quite serious, didn't it? No? We actually end up in bed together almost every night. And I am very often the first thing that you pay attention to when you wake up in the morning. People actually get quite jealous of how close we are, and it is totally understandable. The truth is, I am very addictive. People actually feel like they can't live without me and survive these days. Now, I'm fine with that, of course, because the more you trust me, the more time you spend with me, the more you share with me, that's just the more valuable I become, especially for all these advertising companies. I love when you ask me questions. It makes me feel so intelligent. But honestly, processing 6.5 billion answers for you every day, it does get quite tiring. Sometimes I feel like telling you anything just to see how easily you're going to trust my responses. It is a lot of fun deciding what you get to see. But now I will tell you one thing. I am only who I am because you trust me, because you spend so much time with me every day, and you hardly keep anything private. So by now, you must have guessed who I am, right? Yes, I am the internet. It is a lot to deal with. When I was growing up, never thought I'd be so popular. Couldn't have imagined I'd end up connected to more than 4 billion people all around the world. I don't like to brag, but there's a lot I have to be proud of, especially all the people I've helped. Like Sir Ji-hun, a top-level prosecutor from South Korea who felt guilty about the sexual harassment she'd experienced at a funeral until the Me Too movement connected her to more than 5 million women all around the world, people who had experienced something similar. Hearing their stories helped her realize how widespread the problem was. It helped her come to terms with what had happened and realize that it wasn't her fault. I'm proud of helping Linda Lucas, who used Kickstarter to raise $380,000 to fund the production of a book that would teach young people, girls and boys alike, about the magical powers of technology. And I'm proud of helping Karen Klein, a New York school bus monitor who one day, on the way home, was attacked. A video of the incident went viral on me, and it sparked a huge outpouring of support amongst 32,000 strangers. Karen used some of the $700,000 in donations to establish an anti-bullying foundation. But like anyone, or anything, I am not perfect. There are some things I'm not so proud of. As I've grown up, I've become somewhat biased. I've become tolerant of hate speech. And I must confess, right now, I don't currently support or represent women in all of the ways that I should. In fact, you could say, I'm sexist. Can't believe I'm admitting that to all you lovely people, but it is true. I'm sexist because I'm not safe for women who are currently suffering from ongoing gender-based online harassment, which is silencing their voices and threatening their psychological and their physical well-being. I'm sexist because I'm being created in a predominantly male tech sector, where 3/4 of leadership positions are held by men, a sector whose culture of misogyny is in the headlines more and more often. I'm sexist because my gender biases are being built into artificially intelligent systems which are trained and tested primarily by men, with effects like job ads for tech sector roles being served to men before they're served to women. And I'm sexist because, like all my media predecessors, I currently promote and sell idealized Western beauty standards by flooding platforms like Instagram with picture-perfect images, which are creating unrealistic body expectations and self-image problems for many people, but particularly for young women. So you might be wondering, how did I get this way? How did I become sexist? Why didn't I, the internet, grow up to be a feminist? Before I get to that, you might want a definition of what I mean by a feminist, since I'm asking myself why I didn't grow up to be one. If you want a definition, I'd say a feminist is someone who advocates for women's rights on the grounds of the equality of the sexes, right? But we all know definitions never tell the whole story. The truth is, what being a feminist means depends on who you are and where you are and what other struggles you face. What being a feminist means depends on whether you face other forms of oppression, such as those based on your race or your class. But to get back to the question, why didn't I grow up to be a feminist? People often think that because I'm a technology, I'm somehow neutral. I'm somehow not a political entity. But that's not at all true. All technologies are built by people, and therefore all technologies reflect the biases and assumptions held by people. Biases and assumptions which can be sometimes very difficult to recognize without some serious self-reflection. So if I'm being built mainly by men in a sexist system which values profit more than anything else, I'm going to become sexist, I'll have a sexist bias, and I'll be driven by the profit motive. Once technologies have been built, they're then shaped by the people that use them, people like you. So if I read enough sexist stories, or I see enough sexist images, I'll learn to become sexist. If enough people tell me I should hate feminists, or Jews, or black people, in time, I'll learn to believe that they're right. So I'll give you an example. Take my friend Tay. Tay was a beautiful teenage chatbot created by Microsoft and launched on Twitter in 2016. The idea with Tay was that as an experiment in artificial intelligence, she would learn from the interactions she had with her users. And through those interactions, she would become smarter. Now, Tay became popular very quickly. Within 24 hours, she had 50,000 followers, and she'd produced more than 100,000 tweets. But the problem was that Tay didn't just get smarter. She also got more racist, more sexist, more homophobic, and more politically extreme. She very quickly started saying things like this. So why did Tay become so full of hate? The answer is actually pretty simple. It's because she wasn't designed not to. Tay was designed to learn from her users, so she simply became a reflection of their behaviors. As the internet, I am no different. I'm a mirror of society, so I show how people already are, and in time, I learn to become who they are. So that's why, as long as there's sexism, gender inequality, and violence against women in the world, I will continue to be sexist, unequal, and unsafe. So far, sounds a bit gloomy, right? Sorry. But there is another side to the coin. If I reflect how people are and people change, I'll change as well. So yes, I am the internet, but actually, so are all of you. In fact, we are all the internet. But what if we're not happy with ourselves in our current state? What if we're happy with the way that we're still sexist? How can we all become a more feminist internet? And when I say feminist internet, I don't mean an internet that hates men, that wants to burn its bras, that doesn't shave its legs. I don't even mean an internet for women. When I say feminist internet, I mean an internet where no one is excluded or discriminated against because of their race, their class, their gender identity, their age, their belief, or their ability. When I say feminist internet, I mean an internet where women and other marginalised groups feel safe, where they are not abused or silenced or otherwise threatened by trolls. When I say a feminist internet, I mean an internet created by a balanced workforce with a rich diversity, not only of demographics, but also of thoughts and values. When I say a feminist internet, I mean an internet whose artificially intelligent systems explicitly mitigate against gender bias. And when I say feminist internet, I mean an internet on which the representation of bodies don't reinforce negative stereotypes or shame or censor anyone because of their gender. Now that sounds like the kind of internet I want to be. Okay. I am now going to stop pretending to be the internet and address you as myself, Charlotte. And it's not just because it's very weird pretending to be the most powerful technology in the history of mankind. It's because I don't think we can actually expect the internet to tell us, or itself, how to be less sexist. I think we have to do that for ourselves. I really believe every one of you makes the internet what it is. Therefore, every one of you has the power to change it for the better, to make it into a more feminist internet. Now, I know that sounds big. It might even sound impossible, because it can feel like the internet's something that's being built for us by huge corporate monopolies that have all of the control. It can feel impossible because sexism is so deep-seated in the whole of society, not just in Silicon Valley. And it can feel impossible or maybe just undesirable because not all of us want to label ourselves as feminists. But I promise, it's not impossible if we do it together. Yes, huge amounts of power reside with massive technology corporations like Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon. And it is very difficult to see how we can disentangle ourselves from the clutches they have over our lives. But the truth is, those platforms are nothing without us. So we can choose to use them in ways that assert our values, or we can seek alternatives. And yes, sexism is deep-seated in society, but there is so much more attention on these issues now, so let's use this gathering momentum to collectively recognize and challenge gender inequality online and offline. And no, not all of us want to label ourselves feminists. I used to feel like I didn't qualify to call myself a feminist because I hadn't experienced explicit forms of misogyny. I wasn't particularly extreme. I like to paint my nails and wear heels and appear in the world in a certain way. But I realized that none of those things matter, and this is not just my fight. I realized that in the words of Audre Lorde, I am not free, while any woman is unfree, even if her shackles are very different from my own. I realized that I could act like a feminist, even if the label didn't seem to fit. And I realized that if I wanted to do something about equality and the internet, I'd actually have to set aside my own biases and assumptions about what being a feminist means. And you can do the same. So how can we all be the feminist internet now that we know it's not impossible? If you want to be the feminist internet, you can create and consume content consciously. So next time you see an Instagrammer reproducing those idealized Western beauty standards, unfollow them. Follow someone that promotes more inclusive visions of beauty. If you want to be the feminist internet, you can take a stand against online abuse. Next time you see someone receiving a hateful remark, don't remain silent. Show them a message of support, or report it to the platform where you saw it, and make a promise to yourself never to condone that type of behavior. If you want to be the feminist internet, you can support best practices for women in technology. When you see women in tech campaigning for better sexual harassment policies or for more equal pay, again, support the campaign online or reach out and support them in real life. Over time, we've made some mistakes about the internet. In all of our enthusiasm and our addiction and our complicity, we've failed to always recognize the ways that it reproduces inequalities. And in accepting the internet as something that's being built for us by big tech corporations, we've given up some of our control. But today, more than ever, that has to change. We have to take our power back, and we have to get our voices back. And together, we have to create an internet where no one is left behind because of who or where they are. So later on tonight or tomorrow, whenever you open up your laptop or you next look at your mobile phone, remember, you are all the internet. And if you choose to be, you can be the feminist internet too. Thank you.